Chapter 1, A Clash of Alphas. Warm summer air drifted over the rooftop bar, carrying the mingled scents of expensive cologne, citrus cocktails, and city asphalt still radiating heat from the day. Music pulsed steadily, weaving through conversations and bursts of laughter that floated above the skyline. Kyle Rivers stood by the glass railing, gazing out at the glittering sprawl of skyscrapers and traffic below. His charcoal suit fit him like armor, crisp and sharp, but his eyes, cool and watchful, hinted at a mind somewhere far away from the celebration swirling around him. Mia, his Omega friend and trusted confidant, elbowed him gently. "You look like you're plotting to buy the building. Can you please try looking like a normal human for 5 minutes?" Kyle rolled his eyes. "I'm observing." You're brooding." Mia flicked her honey blonde hair off her shoulders and tilted her head. "At least pretend you're enjoying the music." Kyle sighed and lifted his drink. "Cheers." But before he could take a sip, a ripple of laughter broke through the crowd, louder than the thumping bass. Heads turned as a man strolled in, energy swirling around him like a live wire. Josh Miller. He wore ripped black jeans, combat boots, and a white shirt under a leather jacket. His hair was tousled, giving him the perpetual look of a rebel caught mid-windstorm. His grin flashed white under the club lights, and people practically moved aside for him as though he commanded the air itself. Kyle stared. He knew Josh's face all too well, famous stuntman, adrenaline junkie, face of countless viral action reels. And he was an alpha. Their eyes met, and like a strike of flint, something flared. Josh sauntered over, hands stuffed in his jacket pockets. "Well, look who's here." Mr. Corporate himself. Kyle stiffened. "And you are?" Josh leaned in, eyes glinting. "Josh Miller. You've probably seen me flipping off buildings. Or maybe you're too busy counting your stock shares." Mia's eyes widened. "Oh boy." Kyle's jaw tightened. "I'm not impressed by daredevils looking for clicks." Josh tilted his head, stepping even closer until Kyle could feel the brush of alpha pheromones. An electric, spicy heat that prickled under his skin. "And I'm not impressed by suits who think they own the world," Josh murmured. For a moment, time seemed to hold its breath as the music pulsed around them. Neither alpha moved. Then Josh smirked, giving Kyle a look of pure challenge, before pivoting and disappearing into the dance floor crowd. Kyle exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Mia cleared her throat. "Well, that was intense." Kyle glared at his drink. "He's insufferable." But even as he said it, the scent of Josh lingered, spicy and thrilling, and Kyle couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the last time they'd clash. Chapter 2, The Contract. Monday arrived like a slap to the face. Kyle sat in the glass and chrome conference room of Riverstone Media Group, coffee cooling untouched beside him as his boss droned on about marketing synergy. "Kyle," said Mr. Hawthorne, his deep voice echoing off the table. "We want Josh Miller as the face of our new extreme sports platform. He's viral gold." Kyle closed his eyes for a beat. "Sir, with respect, he's volatile." Hawthorne raised a brow. "And you're the only one who can handle him." A short while later, Kyle found himself at a trendy cafe across from Josh Miller. The place smelled like espresso and vanilla, soft acoustic music playing over hidden speakers. Josh sat sprawled in his chair, sunglasses perched in his hair, expression bored. "Let me get this straight," Josh said, voice dripping sarcasm. "You want me in some shiny corporate campaign. For what? So your board can pat themselves on the back?" Kyle exhaled. "Not exactly. This platform could give you creative freedom. You'd have input on everything." Josh scoffed. "I don't do puppet shows." "Then let's do something real." Kyle leaned forward. "Your stunts go viral because they're raw. People feel your authenticity. Let us amplify that without changing who you are." Josh stared at him, one brow raised. "That's the longest sentence I've heard from you. You rehearsed it in the mirror." Kyle's lips twitched despite himself. "Only once." A tiny grin tugged at Josh's mouth. "One condition. I'm not some pretty poster boy. No telling me how to dress, how to talk, or how to breathe." Kyle extended his hand. "Deal." Josh shook it, his grip warm and strong. And under the table, their pheromones swirled again, a silent current neither wanted to acknowledge. Chapter 3, Behind the Scenes. The set was chaos. Crew members shouting, lights blazing, camera rigs rolling along tracks. Josh stood astride a powerful black motorcycle, helmet tucked under one arm. Kyle hovered by the monitors, unable to tear his eyes away. "Ready?" called the director. Josh flashed a grin and slid the helmet on. Moments later, he revved the bike, speeding down a ramp and soaring off a jump. The machine twisted mid-air in a perfect flip before landing with a roar. Crew members erupted in cheers. Josh pulled off his helmet, breathing hard, eyes shining. But when he flexed his right hand, his smile faltered. Kyle was there in seconds. "Are you okay?" Josh tried to pull away. "I'm fine. Let me see." Kyle took Josh's hand gently, thumb brushing the tender skin. A faint flush rose on Josh's cheek. "I said I'm fine," Josh growled. "You could have sprained it." Kyle's voice dropped low. "Don't be reckless." Josh stared at him, tension softening ever so slightly. "Why do you care?" Kyle met his gaze steadily. "Because I respect you. And because—" He hesitated. "I don't want you hurt." Josh pulled his hand away but didn't snap back. Instead, he whispered, "Don't make me soft, Rivers." Kyle gave a tiny smile. Too late. Chapter 4, A Night Out. The bar's neon lights flashed like fireworks as bass thudded through the floor. Kyle sat perched awkwardly at a high table while Mia bounced in her seat. "Kyle," she yelled over the music, "please, just dance." He shook his head. "I'm good here." Then the crowd parted and Josh appeared, hair slicked back from sweat, grin wide. "Well, look who crawled out of his office." Kyle rolled his eyes. "I came here under duress." Josh smirked. "Guess I'll have to show you how to have fun." Before Kyle could protest, Josh grabbed his hand and tugged him onto the dance floor. Lights flashed as they moved to the rhythm, Josh spinning Kyle around until even Kyle had to laugh. At one point, Josh pulled Kyle close, leaning in until his breath fanned across Kyle's ear. "You're not half bad." Their bodies pressed together, and suddenly a sharp spike of alpha pheromones burst between them, spicy and potent. The people nearby gasped, eyes wide. Josh blinked. "Oh, okay, we should probably leave," Kyle finished, face flushed. Outside, they stood on the sidewalk, panting. Josh rubbed the back of his neck. "Guess we made a scene." Kyle shook his head, a reluctant smile curling his lips. "Thanks for the dance." Josh's grin softened. "Anytime, Rivers." Chapter 5, Secrets and Scars. Kyle arrived at Josh's loft apartment, balancing a stack of documents and a branded coffee cup. The place was bigger than he'd expected. A sleek, modern space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, but cluttered with motorcycle helmets, dumbbells, and surfboards stacked in corners. "Just leave the paperwork," Josh called from somewhere deeper in the apartment. The sound of a shower hissed behind a half-open bathroom door. Kyle wandered closer to a bookshelf. A dusty photo frame caught his eye. A younger Josh, smiling, hair slicked back, wearing a blue swim cap and a gold medal around his neck. Behind him, a crowd of teammates cheered. Josh stepped out of the bathroom in sweatpants, a towel draped around his shoulders. Water dripped onto the hardwood floor. He froze. "Put that down." Kyle carefully set the frame back on the shelf. "You were a swimmer." Josh tugged the towel tighter around his neck, shoulders stiffening. "That was a long time ago." Kyle searched his face. "What happened?" Josh dropped his eyes. "I blew out my shoulder. Doctors said I'd never swim competitively again. Sponsors disappeared overnight. The Federation stopped calling. So I found something else that made my heart race. Stunts." Josh shrugged. "Better than drowning in pity. At least if I crash, it's my choice." Kyle stepped closer. "You're more than the stunts, Josh." Josh scoffed, voice cracking a little. "Says the perfect alpha exec." "I'm far from perfect," Kyle murmured. "I know what it's like to hide parts of yourself. People expect alphas to be invincible." Josh met his gaze for a long moment, vulnerability flickering across his features. Then he shook his head roughly. "Forget it." But later, as Kyle was leaving, Josh called out softly, "Thanks for caring." Chapter 6, Viral Trouble. Kyle sat in his office, blinds half drawn, staring at his phone screen. Mia burst in, her phone held high. "It's everywhere, Kyle." A gossip headline blinked on her screen. "Alpha X Alpha Romance?" Kyle Rivers and Josh Miller spotted getting cozy. Kyle groaned. We just left a bar. That's all. Yeah. Well, people are freaking out. Mia leaned over his desk. Two alphas together? That's taboo in some circles. I don't care what they think, Kyle snapped. Meanwhile, across the city, Josh paced his loft, phone buzzing incessantly. Dylan, his beta manager, sat slumped on the couch. Josh, your agent's panicking, Dylan muttered. Half your brand deals might back out. Josh scrubbed a hand over his face. I'm not letting Kyle lose everything over me. You love him, Dylan said quietly. Josh swallowed. Yeah, that's the problem. That night, Josh called Kyle. His voice trembled. I'm ending this. Before we both burn. Josh. It's my fault, Kyle. I'm toxic for you. Then the line went dead. Kyle lowered his phone slowly, heart pounding. Chapter 7, The Proposal. Weeks passed like molasses. Kyle moved through his days on autopilot, his suits impeccable but his eyes shadowed. One morning, he stood backstage at a massive media event, clutching a microphone. Mia gripped his arm. Are you sure? She whispered. Kyle's jaw was set. Yes. When his name was called, he stepped out into a blinding wash of stage lights. The auditorium buzzed with chatter and camera flashes. He took a deep breath. For years, people said there can't be two alphas working side by side. That we'd always be rivals. I don't believe that anymore. A hush fell. Kyle continued, voice steady. I want to introduce our new campaign ambassador. A man who defines strength, courage, and living without fear, Josh Miller. There was a stunned silence. Then the curtains parted. Josh stood there, blinking under the lights, looking raw and hesitant. Kyle smiled. Together, we're showing the world that two alphas can stand side by side. As equals. Josh stepped forward. For a moment, he stared at Kyle as though he might bolt. Then he reached for Kyle's hand and the crowd erupted in cheers. Josh leaned close enough for Kyle to hear over the roar. You're crazy. Kyle squeezed his hand. Maybe, but I'm not letting go. Chapter 8, The Rift. Despite the viral triumph, backlash followed fast. Kyle sat in a glass office surrounded by executives arguing over spreadsheets. Investors threatened to pull funding. Headlines screamed about scandal. You're costing this company millions. Mr. Hawthorne thundered. Kyle kept his voice even. And what price do we pay for hiding who we are? Meanwhile, Josh disappeared from the spotlight entirely. He drove alone down coastal highways, parking beside cliffs and staring at the sea for hours. One evening, he sat at the edge of a weather-worn pier, ocean spray misting his face. Dylan found him there, silent and shivering in the wind. Go back to the city, Josh muttered. Not without you, Dylan said gently. He needs you, Josh. Josh closed his eyes, voice barely audible. I'm so tired, Dylan, of fighting everything. Dylan nodded. Then stop running. Chapter 9, Finding Josh. Rain fell in silver sheets as Kyle pulled his car up a narrow coastal road. He burst into the old boathouse, breathless, clothes soaked through. Josh stood inside, sanding an old surfboard, salt-streaked hair falling into his eyes. He froze when he saw Kyle. Kyle, go home. Kyle stepped closer, voice shaking. I've been looking everywhere for you. Josh stared at the floor. You deserve someone easier. Kyle grabbed his shoulders. Don't you get it? I don't want easier. I want you. Josh tried to pull away, but Kyle refused to let go. I'm tired of pretending to be the perfect alpha, Kyle whispered. I want to be real. With you. Josh's eyes glistened. I've never wanted someone like this. Kyle's voice broke. Then stop pushing me away. Josh made a strangled sound and pulled Kyle into his arms. They stood there, tangled together, rain hammering the boathouse roof like a drum. Josh whispered, If I fall again, will you catch me? Kyle buried his face against Josh's neck. Always. Chapter 10, Alpha Tides. A month later, a conference center bustled with reporters and fans. Cameras flashed as Kyle and Josh entered together, fingers intertwined. Kyle stepped up to the podium. We're not here today as rivals. We're here as partners. Because strength isn't about standing alone, it's about standing together. Josh leaned into the mic, grinning. And if you think two alphas can't make it work, watch us prove you wrong. The audience erupted. Outside, the sky was painted with the pinks and golds of a setting sun. Kyle and Josh walked through a sea of fans, flashbulbs popping, laughter ringing in the warm breeze. Josh pulled Kyle close. So, 2 alphas. 1 future. Kyle smiled. 1 future. And together, they disappeared into the glow of the city lights, 2 alphas walking side by side into whatever the world dared to throw at them next.